The Kaua I Akialoa was a remarkable bird. Its name, Akialoa, means long akia, possibly referring to its long bill. This bird belonged to the Fringillidae family, commonly known as the true finches. Sadly, this unique creature is no longer with us. The last confirmed sighting was in 1969 on the Alakai Plateau. The bird slipped quietly into extinction, marking a significant loss for Hawaii's biodiversity. It teaches us about the importance of conservation. The Kaua I Akialoa belongs to the order Passeriformes, the largest order of birds, including more than half of all bird species. These are often called perching birds or songbirds. Within this order, it was part of the family Fringillidae, which includes finches found worldwide. However, the Akialoa was part of a special subgroup, the Hawaiian honeycreepers, tribe Drepanidini. These birds are a classic example of adaptive radiation. They evolved diverse bill shapes and feeding habits from a single ancestral species. Systematically, its classification goes deeper. Kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, class Aves, order Passeriformes, family Fringillidae, subfamily Carduelinae, tribe Drepanidini, genus species. For a time, it was placed in the genus. This genus includes other honeycreepers with long, decurved bills. However, later studies suggested it was distinct enough for its own genus. The Kaua I Akialoa was an endemic species found only on the island of Kauai in the Hawaiian archipelago. This extreme endemism made it particularly vulnerable. If its habitat on Kauai was disturbed, it had nowhere else to go. Island species often evolve in isolation, leading to unique adaptations but also increased risk. The ancestors of the Akialoa likely arrived on one of the Hawaiian islands long ago and then diversified. The specific conditions on Kauai, its oldest high island, shaped the Akialoa's evolution. It became perfectly adapted to Kauai's forests, but this specialization ultimately contributed to its doom. The Kaua I Akialoa was a medium-sized honeycreeper, measuring about 6 to 8 inches in length. Its body was slender, typical of birds that forage actively among branches and flowers. The most striking feature was its incredibly long, downward curving bill. This bill was often longer than the bird's head, a specialized tool essential for its survival. The color of the Kaua I Akialoa varied between males and females, a trait called sexual dimorphism. Adult males were generally a bright olive yellow or greenish yellow. Females were typically a more subdued grayish olive or dusky green. Young birds resembled the females in coloration. The bill was the Akialoa's defining characteristic. It was black and dramatically decurved, like a scythe. In males, the bill could be exceptionally long, sometimes reaching up to 2.5 inches. The female's bill was also long and curved, but usually shorter than the male's. This remarkable bill was not just for show, it was perfectly adapted for probing deep into flowers and searching for insects in bark crevices and under moss. Other features included its relatively short tail and strong legs and feet. These strong feet allowed it to cling to tree trunks and branches, moving nimbly through the forest canopy. Its eyes were dark and it had a somewhat inquisitive expression, common in honeycreepers. The overall impression was of a highly specialized and elegant bird. The Kaua I Akialoa was a bird of the forest, primarily inhabiting the native wet and mesic forests of Kauai. These forests were rich in flowering trees and plants. The bird preferred higher elevations, typically above 1,100 feet. Its prime habitat was found in areas like the Alaki Wilderness Preserve, known for its dense, misty rainforests. The Akialoa thrived in these environments where its food sources were abundant. These native forests were characterized by specific types of trees. Ohi a lehua trees were particularly important, providing a key source of nectar. Other native plants like lobelias with their long tubular flowers were also vital. The Akialoa's long bill was perfectly suited to reach nectar in these deep flowers. The understory of these forests, with ferns and mosses, also provided foraging opportunities for insects. The health of these native plant communities was directly linked to the survival of the Akialoa. The bird was adapted to the specific microclimates and plant communities found only on this island. This specialization, while an evolutionary success, also made it incredibly vulnerable to changes in its limited environment. The preferred living conditions for the Akialoa were undisturbed native forests. These forests needed to be free from invasive plants that outcompeted native flora and from introduced predators and diseases. The integrity of Kauai's high-elevation rainforest was paramount for the Akialoa's existence. The Kaua I Akialoa had a specialized diet, primarily nectarivorous, meaning it fed on nectar from flowers. Its incredibly long, decurved bill was a perfect tool for this. It allowed the bird to reach nectar deep within the tubular corollas of native Hawaiian plants. Flowers of the Ohialahua tree were a favorite. It also fed from various species of lobelioids which have long, curved flowers that match the bird's bill shape. While nectar was a major part of its diet, the Akialoa also consumed insects and other small arthropods. Its long bill was adept at probing into crevices in bark, searching under mosses and lichens on tree trunks and branches. This mixed diet of nectar and insects provided a balance of carbohydrates and proteins, essential for its energy needs and overall health. The unique bill of the Akialoa was a marvel of natural engineering. The upper mandible was much longer than the lower one. The bird would insert its bill into a flower or crevice and use its long tubular tongue to lap up nectar or capture insects. This specialized feeding apparatus allowed the Akialoa to exploit food resources that other birds could not reach. This specialized diet, however, also became a vulnerability. The Akialoa depended heavily on the availability of specific native flowering plants. This dietary specialization contributed to its precarious existence. The Kaua I Akialoa was generally described as a peaceful and relatively tame bird. Early naturalists noted that it was not particularly shy and would often allow close observation as it foraged. It was an active forager, constantly moving through the forest canopy, searching for nectar and insects among the leaves, flowers, and branches of native trees. These birds were often seen foraging alone or in pairs, not known to form large flocks. Their foraging technique was distinctive, meticulously inspecting flowers and prying into bark for insects. The preferred living conditions for the Akialoa were in the cool, wet native forests with abundant flowering ohia trees and other nectar-producing plants. These high-elevation forests provided the specific resources they needed. The birds were adapted to the misty, often rainy conditions of these environments. Their daily life revolved around finding enough food to sustain their energetic foraging activities. There is limited information about their social interactions beyond foraging. Like many honey creepers, they likely had specific vocalizations for communication. However, detailed studies of their songs and calls are scarce due to their early decline. The picture we have is of a quiet, diligent bird, perfectly adapted to its specialized niche within the intricate web of life in Kauai's ancient forests. Its gentle nature makes its extinction even more poignant. The loss of this unique bird emphasizes the urgent need for proactive conservation measures. Information about the reproduction habits of the Kaua I Akialoa is unfortunately quite limited. Much of what is known is based on observations of related honey creeper species. They likely built cup-shaped nests from plant materials. These nests were probably well hidden within dense foliage. The breeding season coincided with peak flower abundance, ensuring a supply of nectar for adults and young. Related honey creepers typically lay 2 to 3 eggs. Both parents likely incubated the eggs and cared for the chicks. Raising young in Kauai's wet forests required significant parental investment. The chicks were altricial, needing frequent feeding. The diet for young birds likely included more insects for protein. Parents foraged tirelessly to meet their offspring's demands. The scarcity of data highlights a common problem with rare species. By the time scientists realized the Akialoa was in trouble, its population was already very small. The limited information underscores the challenges these birds faced. The extinction of the Kaua I Akialoa was due to multiple factors. Habitat destruction was a major contributor. Native forests were cleared for agriculture and development. The Akialoa depended on these forests. Fragmentation led to population decline. Invasive species changed forest composition. Predators like rats, cats, and mongooses preyed on native birds. Avian diseases, especially avian malaria, were significant. Native birds had no immunity to these diseases. Climate change also contributed to their decline. The extinction of the Kaua I Akialoa is a tragic reminder of ecosystem fragility. The Kaua I Akialoa played an important ecological role in its native forest ecosystem. As a nectarivore, it was likely a key pollinator for several native Hawaiian plants. Its long, curved bill was perfectly adapted to access nectar from specific flowers. The decline and extinction of the Akialoa may have had cascading negative effects on the plant species it pollinated. The extinction of the Kaua I Akialoa teaches us profound lessons about conservation. It highlights the extreme fragility of island ecosystems. When new pressures like habitat loss or invasive species are introduced, native species can decline rapidly. The loss of this unique bird emphasizes the urgent need for proactive conservation measures.